I'm going.
All right,
I'm going.
No, it's I'm coming up.
I'm going down.
I want
coming
the
up
pod
around.
to know, and these listeners better fucking know it, baby. I'm going down.
I'm coming
It's
up.
going down. How about that? There we go.
Still no
It's
words.
going down. We want the world to know.
Kevin, do we have a sponsor?
Huh?
Do we have a sponsor today?
Do we?
Do we?
No?
No.
I don't want to be sponsored.
You don't want to be sponsored?
I mean, yeah, sure, fine.
Can we be sponsored by Big Cheese?
Yeah, Big Cheese.
Big American Cheese.
Big American Cheese sponsoring the podcast today. That's right. Still full of all the antibiotics and microplastics that you're used to. Big American
Antibiotics?
Cheese. Take a big old bite. You're going to die anyway.
Are you sure it's antibiotics?
Yeah.
That's good
That's what
for
they
you.
pump the cow. No, antibiotics are not good for you in a high quantity.
Oh, in
They're
a high quantity.
Okay, it's in the name, Odie.
Right.
Anti-bio. Anti-bio. If you take a lot of antibiotics, you're not going to have a good time.
Hey, Ty, this is a science podcast now.
We're a science podcast now, baby. Next week, RFK Jr. joins us to talk about vaccines.
About measles.
Are they causing all the other diseases that we are recognizing in the world? I don't know. Did he really kill a bear and then just leave it in a park? Probably.
A teddy bear.
Was that just a fever dream hallucinated by a man
Definitely.
with a brainworm? Also, probably.
His brainworm has gotten out of control.
I think both happened. I think he killed a bear and left it in the park and then forgot about it and then had a fever dream and then reported that he killed a bear and left it in the park. But it was true because he remembered it in a fever dream because he has a fucking brainworm. The aesthetic makeup of the Trump cabinet is deplorable. It looks like he's trying to create a new Daily Wire, which is already its own shade of bad with Ben. We're getting into it already with Ben Shapiro and Jordan B. Cuck Peterson. The
and
fucking
Steve Bannon,
worst.
Steve Bannon did the salute on TV now.
Your men gotta be men. Your men have to be men, and they have to eat. This is my Jordan B. Peterson impression. They have to eat meat.
I can tell.
Your men have to eat. If your men aren't eating meat, then you're going to have communism. And PC culture leads to communism. He did, obviously, I'm like, dude, did you read the Communist Manifesto?
No,
I honestly want to be like, all right, hands up, who read the Communist Manifesto? All right, cool, yeah, all right. Root words. Let's just do some loose attaching of root words and see which one is more philosophically rooted in humanism just based on root words. All right. We got communism, community. Capitalism, capital. Communities are part of society. Socialism, also society. All right, cool. So we got society and communism. We got socialism. Humans are the social animal. Are they the capital animal? No. Okay. Do you want someone to run your country like a business? That's horrible.
Don't.
That's a nightmare.
Hey, you know what's
Have
funny?
you worked for a business ever?
Yeah. Especially a failed businessman. But you know what's really funny? You know what's terrifying? Not for us. So you know Matt Gaetz, right? The human grease stain Matt Gaetz,
Florida incarnate.
has 3DO. Yeah, Florida incarnate as a person. Did you hear? So I'm a fan, unashamed, of the
Matt
show
Gaetz.
Reacher.
Oh.
No, fuck no. Fuck no. Yes.
So
Kevin.
I'm a fan
I'm
of
a big
Matt
fan
Gaetz.
of Matt
That's
Gaetz.
how we're going to win him over. We're just going to have a bunch of non-binary people become fans of Matt Gaetz. And then he'll be like, oh, wait, I've got a crowd? Oh, shit. That's actually, we could probably, here, okay, I'll let you finish your story.
Well, hold on, I gotta tell you
feel
my
like,
thing.
okay, yeah, finish your take.
I never got to tell you my thing.
Tell me the thing.
Okay, but I'm a fan of Reacher,
Yeah.
right? So the actor for Reacher, Alan Ritchson, is, he's a fucking big
He's a
dude,
big man.
Right? Like, you've seen him.
He's a real big man.
He's a big man. And he fights a bigger man.
I've got a lady in my
on
office
Reacher.
who is, she is in love with Alan Ritchson. And
Yeah,
then
me too.
she
It's
revealed
me.
that he fights a bigger man. And we looked him up. The guy's 7'2", 350. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, he's huge. Holy fuck. So he
On the next
basically
season,
got
he's just going to
online-
fight the Chicago Bears offensive line. Like, that's
It's just all of them at
Yeah,
once.
it's just-
Bam, bam, bam,
This
bam.
season on Reacher, the Chicago
fights a
Bears
whole football
offensive
team.
line is looped into this horrible conspiracy, and Reacher has to fight all of them one
Hey,
by one.
He was in a football show called Blue Mountain State,
He was,
which
yeah.
is coming back.
Bad, baby.
But
All right, keep
anyways, he got online and was
Okay.
like, fuck Matt Gaetz. That dude sucks. I fucking hate Matt Gaetz. And I'm like, imagine being Matt Gaetz and seeing somebody like that be like, if I ever see you, I fucking hate you, dude. He went to school with Matt Gaetz. They're the same age.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, I'm gonna get into politics to spite people like that.
Oh.
And I'm like, fuck, dude, imagine having Reacher come after you.
Yeah, right. Like fucking Alan Richson just being like, yeah, fuck you.
Love him.
What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say,
Yeah,
Matt
what are you gonna
Gaetz?
do?
What are you gonna
What are you
do?
gonna do?
You have a bigger.
Dude, he punched a guy through a window.
That's kind
What
of
are you gonna
like,
do?
I feel like that's like the right way for me to move as like a confidently progressive, humanist, middle-aged white man who also lifts a ton of weights and fights often. I should just start calling people out and being like, "Fuck you!" Like, and they're gonna be like, "Well, shit, that guy could kick my ass." I don't know. Like, I don't know how I respond to that guy. And like, I mean, you know, what shame do I have to bear? I'll call out some fucking MAGA Republicans. Fuck them. No, for real, fuck them.
No, I mean, for real.
The MAGA Republicans don't like safe spaces until you start calling them out and saying fuck your feelings. Then all of a sudden they want safe spaces like Truth Social.
They want
we don't
safe
want
space.
safe spaces, but also we have Truth Social. Huh? What the fuck? Do you not like? It's literally like I love watching. I don't love watching it, but I love watching this part and just going. You don't smell your own bullshit, do you? Like you just don't. You just don't. Like anyway,
you can't smell your own farts when that's all
here's
you're
what I was
used
gonna
to.
say. Ted Cruz. Okay. We're going to win him over because he obviously just wants people to like him. So here's what we do. We flip the script. We get everybody one day to just love Ted Cruz from like BIPOC and LGBTQ plus communities. He will flip. He will flip. He is a weak man, and he will flip to our side. And it'll just be the beginning. That's all we have to do. That's all we. That's all we have to do. If we can get a little weasel like Ted Cruz over here, man, that'd be great.
Oh, he was in the Suicide Squad. He was Weasel. That's
He
right.
was Weasel. Let's get him in there.
Weasel.
Let's bring him over to us, and then we'll go, hey, Republicans, look what's happening over here. We brought your.
You love him, right?
We brought the worst of you already. Imagine what's gonna happen next. Matt Gaetz, we're gonna beat you up. Ted Cruz, come over.
Yeah, right?
Red Rover. Just fucking
Send Ted Cruz over. Throw it.
all right. Let's start the podcast. Are you ready to clap?
I am ready to clap.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of the UnPop Podcast. I am your Capitan eating big American cheese. As always, Kevin Miner, he, him, with me is...
Odie Matthews, the chef, cooking up that delicious and wonderful cheesy content. They them.
It's so delicious. You can really you get a hint of fabrication on the back end with the microplastics in this. The levels have just gone up over time. Yeah, they're really you know what they brought the cows to a basin. They're free range cows, but they were brought to a basin near Lake Michigan, and you just know like. Have you ever been to a lake and then like
Yeah,
you're
I've
like
been to a
that's a
lake.
nice lake and then the locals go, we can't swim in it.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever done that? Like
I grew up in Florida. You're not allowed to swim in most of those lakes.
and not for natural reasons, for man-made reasons. I went to Silver Lake in California once to go get my cannabis license in like 2016, right? My first cannabis license, baby's first cannabis license, right? This is a really good story that we'll get in the podcast. So I'm going to Silver Lake, beautiful drive. And then we're cresting around. I'm like, oh, my God, this lake is great. It's so calm and serene. There's obviously nobody out on it. There must be a low motor rule. We have those back here. You can't even have motors on some of the lakes because they're small enough, right?
Yeah.
I was like, we should go swimming. And my friends immediately go, you can't. And I was like, why? And then, just because somebody says you can't,
natural
you say
question.
why. And then they were like, well, it's horribly polluted. And I was like, how do you know? And they're like, we came here and wanted to swim, and the locals stopped us. And I was like, oh, okay.
Then you know it's serious.
So, yeah, like, people just over enough time didn't care enough. Like that's all you ever need for pollution is just like people to not care enough, you know? Like everybody who just like throws plastics into the trash and they're like, well, you know, they go to the same place anyway. I'm like, all right, well, maybe let's redirect that ambivalent rage towards something else. How about instead of throwing the plastic into the trash, let's go to City Hall, baby. Let's talk about it. Let's try to solve it. Why are we a political podcast this week? Anyway, okay, let me finish my weed story. So I go to get this license. This is actually a really good story. So it's 2016. You know, legal cannabis licenses for recreation are relatively new in California. I go to a doctor. Everybody there clearly has nothing wrong with them, but we're all filling out forms that we have something that means we need a medicinal license because the medicinal license is better than the early recreational licenses that were all fucked up, right? Yeah. So we're all filling out our medicinal licenses in this office. You can tell the girls who work there, they're like, everybody who walks in, they don't even ask what they're there for. They're just sliding them the form for the medicinal license. Everyone's sitting there. You're looking at each other. You're not talking. I'm a talker. I start asking people questions. My buddy's like, you got to chill. I'm like, what? It's not like we're buying cannabis. Everybody gets real uncomfortable. I'm just cracking up on the inside. Everyone's like, and you hear some people going back and like the doctor's like asking them questions and like some of them longer, some of them shorter. I go back and I just immediately like, I'm like, dude, that is a crazy picture of that cat. Is that your cat? And he's just like, it's like this giant cat on his lap. We have a 10-minute conversation about his cat and then venture into the realm of how he's in a jazz band with a couple students from Berkeley and how I should go to their next show. And in that time, he has not asked me a single question about anything on the sheet and says, you're good to go. And just sends me to go get my fucking medicinal license.
He's just like, yeah, you're good.
And I came out and I'm just laughing. And my friend goes, I go, dude. So, and he goes, we all heard because the office wasn't far from like
That's amazing.
He's like, he didn't ask you a single question. Everyone out here just heard you talk about a cat and jazz music for 10 minutes and then get a medicinal marijuana license.
That's real responsible, California. That's actually incredible.
It was great. Sometimes I forget, like, I'm living a pretty fun life now, but it's way more tame than it used to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes I forget that I just have these ridiculous happenings. Let's get into the news. We got a news segment for y'all. Odie, our chef, brought some content news. Didn't just bring cheese with microplastics in it.
I brought
this week.
one piece of content news.
One piece of giant content news cheese.
Yeah.
Let's roll the news clip.
It's a big wheel.
Yeah, baby. It's the UnPop news coming at you fresh and hot from the command deck of the SS Marlon Brando. Let's see what this week had in store.
All right, what's your news, Odie Matthews, news dude?
So I thought this was just interesting.
Hit me.
We talked about the new Christopher Nolan Odyssey movie last week.
Yeah.
And we talked about we talked about the stat cast.
Mia Goth.
And so what I read, which I think is really interesting,
Mia
I don't know
Goth.
if this is what?
I just said Mia Goth twice. You're good.
Oh.
Keep going.
I don't know if this is necessarily true, but if it is, I find it really funny.
Hit me.
Apparently, because Next Avengers is filming like around the same time as Christopher Nolan's Odyssey movie.
Okay.
The report is that Tom Holland isn't going to get to film much of the Avengers movie, and it's just going to be a stunt double in a mask. But what's funny about that, isn't that like kind of isn't that mostly what Spider-Man is a stunt man or CGI?
It doesn't matter if it's him in the suit, right?
Dude, he's
like
probably, He
we
goes
just
into his
need
closet to
him-
record the lines. You know?
Yeah, like, I mean, we grew up with Power Rangers. We know the deal.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you don't
Dude.
have to put him in it. It's fine.
Okay, you made me think of this. That's my
What?
Spider-Man news, but there was
Okay.
a couple of years ago this Power Rangers like legacy sequel that came straight to Netflix.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be mean, but like they got a
bad?
bunch of Power Rangers from like the 90s and 80s, right? And so these people are like, 40s, 50s
Oh, did
now.
they get Big Bang Mike?
I
The
don't
guy who
know.
teaches MMA and shit? I love him. He's
I don't
great.
know. I don't know anything about Power Rangers, but
He was like, I think he was. He might have been the original or the second Red Ranger.
okay, I know who you're talking about. I've seen him
Yeah,
on, like,
Big Bang
TikTok and
Mike.
stuff.
I love him. He's great.
They didn't get him. He refused to come back because they refused to pay people or whatever. But,
That's dumb.
They like you see these people and then they go, it's morphin time or whatever, and then it's
Yeah.
just clearly really skinny young people in the suits, but the people
no.
that before they transform, like,
We're
and again,
old.
that's what I mean, but like they know some of them gain a little bit of weight, but again, they're 40s and 50s, like they're not, and they're Power Rangers actors, they're not, they don't have access to steroids like Stallone, like
It just shows you that Power Rangers in suit are ageless, and that's fine. I like
love that.
That's great. Yeah, they
Yeah.
should be. They should be timeless, and Zordon should always be
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, Bryan Cranston from fucking. But it should be him as his character from Breaking Bad.
Jesse Plemons.
No, not Jesse Plemons. His character from Breaking Bad.
Oh, Jesse
was-
Pinkerton.
No, was the one
Saul
who walks.
Goodman.
What's his name?
Saul Goodman?
Walter White. Jesus
Oh,
Christ.
Walter White.
Wow. Did you watch Breaking Bad?
Never seen it. Yeah, that's the reaction I get all the time.
Wow. You've watched Transformers like 5 times. You've never
No.
seen Breaking Bad once.
Yeah, because Transformers is art.
This
Art that was
podcast
shit
is
on.
done. No more news. This podcast is over.
Thank you, everybody,
Okay.
for listening
No,
and watching.
We're continuing with news. I don't know if you consider this good news or bad news. I think it's mixed. Amazon bought MGM a few years ago, and then finally this week, Jeff Bezos
Broccoli's.
beat Barbara Broccoli in a game of rock, paper, scissors for who has control over the James Bond franchise.
That's totally what happened. I believe that.
Barbara Broccoli apparently has been cheating this entire time. She goes to throw scissors and changes at the last second, and Jeff Bezos finally caught her. And then when she threw scissors on accident, he said, no takesy backsies. They have James Bond now. What does this mean, Odie?
It means that, okay, so I think this is a bad thing.
First off, it means that Jeff Bezos is getting good at rock, paper, scissors. But
I
keep
think
going.
I think he's cutting people's hands off with scissors. He's like, rock, paper, cut!
He's playing
lose.
literal rock, paper, scissors.
never
like some
chooses
sort
paper.
of Bond villain. He's like, you can choose your fate. Will you get cut by scissors, crushed by a rock, or turned into paper via a steamroller?
Or will... Basically. I think it's a bad thing because say what you will about some of the Daniel Craig James Bond movies and even the
They're
back
fine,
half
but
of
increasingly
Pierce,
worse.
and the back half of Pierce Brosnan's.
They're fine, but increasingly worse.
Increasingly worse. Yeah. I do think that the Broccoli's having a tight leash on the property has kept it from becoming a content farm. And some examples of that I think are relevant now are like Avatar: The Last Airbender is a good one because you had the live action movie, you had the sequel series with Korra, now you have another live action adaptation on Netflix. There's another sequel series in the works. There's another sequel series in the works.
Yeah.
And like I think that with James Bond, I kind of like that they're very careful about it. And again, I don't think all of them are good, but they're very careful on picking their James Bond. They're very careful about crafting the stories. And again, they don't always work, but I think that having, two people be the oversight for an entire franchise is bad in some ways, but when you hand it over to a place like Amazon, I think we're going to be getting James Bond series and Q spin-off series and like a movie every year. And it worries me that it's not going to be nearly as good, which is upsetting because they're not that good right now anyways.
Hear me out. Here's my pitch. And
So that's my pitch.
I'm 99% confident Amazon's going to do this. Villain of the Week, James Bond series, shot 1970s style.
Okay, see, I would take a retro 1960s villain of the week any day.
Right?
That would be cool. Put it back in
like
the
James
60s.
Bond, right? Like 40, 50 minutes an episode. Villain of the week
I would be
gets
down
into
for that.
some trouble, right? There's a damsel or a dude. We could be progressive with it, right? Gets to shag the damsel or dude in distress. I'm just describing Austin Powers. I'm realizing now.
Yeah, you are.
You know what? I take it back. No, I kind of agree with you. I think I think the content farm is a warning. I do think, or rather, I hope that Amazon has learned from Rings of Power and Wheel of Time and what's another
Jack Ryan.
one? And Jack Ryan. I hope that
Jack Ryan was bad.
They say, well, I don't believe that guy is a suspenseful action.
You don't believe
guy.
Jim from The Office?
No, not at all. He doesn't have the face for it. He doesn't look hard. Like he doesn't.
His eyes are up here, Kevin.
He does. No, I mean, like, he just does it like you like. Like if I was a villain, and that was Jack Ryan, and he lifted his face up from the baseball cap, I would laugh before shooting. I would visibly laugh at him before shooting at him. I'd probably die, but I would visibly laugh before shooting
It'd
him,
be worth
and
it.
he would be embarrassed. It would haunt him at night. Jack Ryan would be dreaming about that one like
tough?
henchman who laughed at him. Anyway, but no. So Jim from the. I hope third time's the charm. I hope they've learned, because I can't even tell you what Wheel of Time is about, and I've heard it's an amazing series. Right? Do you know what Wheel of Time is about?
It's about a time wheel.
I watched the whole first season.
Oh, you did?
And I don't know what it's about. Yes. Oh. And I've forgotten most of it. Here's what I know. A bunch of kids, they're all in the same village, and then they're attacked. And then they got a Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring get out, right?
Okay.
And they even get on a ferry and get away, like Buckleberry Ferry style. And then they're with this lady who is a phenomenal actress but is in this bad show, and they're going on this adventure, and then there's a really cool city with like a bunch of shadow shit going on and some weird cool shit, and then I'm like, oh, this is interesting, people might die, and then they get out of there, and then it's real boring again for a while, and like everything's way over dramatic, and then at the end they go through some portal and they come out on the other end, they're like, we're in a different time, I think. I think.
Oh. Okay.
I think that's the first season. Anyway, spoilers. But like, I feel like if they're going to do James Bond and they've actually learned their lesson, we won't see it being a content house. I do also see them capitalizing on it. So I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of not. Like I'm kind of hoping for the best, preparing for the worst, right?
And they'll still have some control. Obviously, they didn't give it all up. I would be shocked if they gave it all up.
Yeah.
I had this other idea as you were describing your pitch. It'd be kind of cool.
Oh, the 19. I was making that up on the spot.
No, but
that wasn't a pitch.
But I think that's a great idea. Throw it back retro
Hire
style.
me, Amazon. Hire me,
Amazon. But you know
hire
what
Kevin. I'm going to show up and pitch shit.
You know what would be really cool? And this would be something that I think would be
What?
really, really smart on Amazon's part. Do an anthology Bond series, and you fan cast, get Henry Cavill for an episode, get Idris Elba for an episode, make a bunch of different people James Bond in like get 6 actors, do 6 episodes where each one is James Bond set in a different time period, doing a different thing. So everybody gets their fan cast. They get your Henry Cavill,
cool.
your Idris Elbas, you can get your Matt Boomers, you can get anybody and everybody that you ever wanted to be James Bond, and just make it where they get a 50-minute little epic piece.
Matt Bomer?
Yeah, I love him.
He would be sick.
He'd be good.
He would be sick
And then,
10 years ago.
You know what you could also do? You could even get, dude, here's another thing that Amazon could do. I know I don't want a content farm, but I like these ideas. Dude, bring back like Pierce Brosnan as like a very, very old James Bond for like a one-off movie. Like they did with Sean Connery, but like better. Do it better.
You know what they're really going to do?
Huh.
Moneypenny series. That's what it's.
See, that's what I'm worried about. I don't want a series about like if we get like a.
I know. I said that because it's the worst option.
But, like,
I said it because it's the worst option. What does she do every time James Bond calls her? She's in the office.
Yeah.
What are we doing in the office the whole time? Right.
It's just
she
her going to
rarely
the
comes
fridge
out
and
into the
back.
field. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Or like a Q series, like a Q origin series. I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want
any of these.
I don't want origin stories.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No.
So James Bond.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on. Magic the Gathering, in increasing its Fortnitification, which is an actual social term now.
Yeah.
Fortnitification is the overdevelopment of in-game transactions, so like reskinning characters, creating different looks within your own game and IP, or buying other franchises to come in and then vamp up the IP, right? This is what Fortnite's been doing for years. Like every once in a while, people like, some kid will come, you hear some kid like yelling at his dad, he's like, Daddy, I've got to get the battle pass because Jack Reacher he's the battle pass this week. I want to be him.
Mr. Beast is in it.
I know he's a larger hitbox, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Beast is in Fortnite, and I gotta do it so I can go and put a dance emoji on while Travis Scott performs in the middle of an island and then launches into space. That was actually pretty cool. But
that was pretty cool.
But so Fortnite's been doing that, and then all these other like IPs picked up on it, and they're like, we could do that too. I mean, even Destiny, the game that we were playing, started buying into other IPs, right? Like they have a Star Wars thing coming out. I haven't played video games in over a year, so
I haven't played
no
Destiny
fucking
so
idea.
long.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on. But like I know like a couple of our friends were like, yeah, there's a Star Wars skin, and I was like, it's done. I'm done.
It's not enough to bring me back.
And here's the thing. I bought into the Lord of the Rings universe beyond for Magic the Gathering because I love the idea of building Lord of the Rings decks and playing them against each other.
Yeah.
But Magic the Gathering has different sets of ways to play the game, and some of them are tournament legal. And one of the problems that's coming up this year is that we're getting a Final Fantasy set. So they're covering Final Fantasies 1 through 16. All
Jesus.
of them, right? Obviously it's not every character and
right, but still,
stuff, right?
that's a lot.
It's huge. They're doing all the home runs, right? They're doing all the big hits. They've already previewed Cloud, Sephiroth, Titus, like a lot of the Terra, a lot of the Ishtala, a lot of the biggest characters from Final Fantasy VII are already being shown, right? These are going to be standard legal, which means if you go to a sanctioned Magic the Gathering tournament, there are going to be cards from Final Fantasy VII that just happen to exist in Magic the Gathering that are playing against Magic the Gathering. And there are already other TCGs that do this. There's Universus, there's a Marvel Snap, there's like Lorcana, there's all these different TCGs, trading card games, that are doing this, right? And so Magic the Gathering... What ends up happening is when everybody is diversifying in the same way, it ends up being an unintentional form of homogenization. Like everything kind of becomes the same. Like it doesn't like, oh, you're gonna play Lorcana, but Spider-Man's in it. Cool. Well, guess what? Later this year, Magic the Gathering has a fucking Spider-Man set. So, like, which game are you gonna play? Like, and then it's just a matter of which brand are you buying into. It's like with shoes. Shoes did the same thing.
Yeah.
Like Nike released like a SpongeBob limited edition Air Jordan, and then Adidas is like, we got a SpongeBob shoe too. You know, like people are just capitalizing on the brands that you overly attach yourself to, and that's
totally.
The other thing is they also, and then they announced the Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I'm like, oh, so like 3 of the sets coming out this year for Magic the Gathering aren't even Magic the Gathering IP anymore. Like they're not the things that I love, which are like, I love the universe, I love the lore, I got into it for that
with the TV show and stuff.
For me, I'm kind of like fading back as a person who's playing it. Like I'm not gonna buy into that as much. I mean, Final Fantasy I'll buy into because it's fucking Final Fantasy. But like I'm like, all right, well, I guess I've got the stuff that I like playing with anyway. It's cool. I don't need to invest more into a game. It's a microtransaction, but it's not a microtransaction because buying into things like this, like if D&D released a Marvel compendium book where you could where you had all the Marvel stat blocks, spoiler alert, you can just make up your own stat blocks. D&D's an imaginary game. You don't have to buy a book ever. Sorry, Hasbro.
You Hasbro?
Yeah, I see you, Hasbro. You're trying to buy my imagination. But like, so like, if they did a Marvel book, you know, all of a sudden you've just got all these people who are like, well, it's in D&D now, so I know you're doing a high fantasy setting in the Sword Coast or the Forgotten Realms. I'm going to play Spider-Man. And you're like, fuck. Now I got to deal with fucking Spider-Man in my party.
Swinging from trees.
Yeah, and I just like, I'm kind of on the side of this where you were with the James Bond stuff. I'm like, this isn't necessarily good news. Like, this is just news at this point, you know? Yeah. And I get it. Some people are hyped for it, and I love it, and I love the people where this is for you, and you're committed, and you love it. Not for me.
And that's fair. I think that it's okay to do that when it comes to certain properties that you're a fan of. I think it's okay to be like, I can still love everything over here, but this new thing you've introduced just isn't for me. Yeah. I mean... You know, that's how you are with Transformers. Like, you love the first 5 because you love Michael Bay, but then you don't like any of the other movies. The good ones, like Transformers 1. You said you didn't like that one.
I'm trying to remember even one that I could just make fun of, but I can't remember a single piece.
I'll send you a link to a video that goes over all of them.
That's great. I love you for that. All right, you have Spider-Man news, by the way.
That was my Spider-Man news. I already did it. It was the Tom Holland Odyssey filming with the mask on. I think that's kind of funny.
Oh, cool.
Because I guess to elaborate a little bit more on that I think is funny.
Yeah, hit me.
I just find it interesting that people were making this news article was making a big deal. They're like, Tom Holland isn't on set. It's not going to be the same. And I'm like, a majority of the Marvel actors are not in the suits, or they're not even there at all. Like, if you look at Civil War, like behind the scenes, Tony Stark is in like a plastic Iron Man shoulder suit, just on his shoulders, and then like half a helmet on his head, and everything else is CGI.
Have you seen the end of Peacemaker? You know, yeah. We had one more bit of news. What was our last little bit of news? We had something else. I forget what it was. I don't care.
You didn't write it down?
To look it up. No, I didn't write it down. Nor do I care enough to look it up. That's it. Odie, you went to the movies this week. What'd you see?
I saw The Monkey. Sorry, I forgot for a second.
Wait, hold on. Let's do that again. Let's back it up.
Odie Matthews at the movies.
Odie, you went to the movies this week. What did you see?
Oh my God, Kevin! I saw this movie called The Monkey.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
By Stephen King.
Well, no, it's not by Stephen King. It's by the guy who did Longlegs, Osgood Perkins.
Yes, and it's a Stephen King story, or is it just based on the story by
It's
Stephen
based
King?
on. Apparently, they changed a lot of things.
Okay.
They basically just took the premise of the monkey, and I read an article. I don't know in the short story, but apparently the monkey couldn't have symbols because of Disney. Disney had like a trademark on monkeys with symbols because of like Toy Story or something.
What?
Yeah, so they had to change it to one where it beats a drum. This movie is interesting.
Okay.
Because
Before you even get into this,
yes,
it's already ruined because
okay,
the whole thing in the story that Stephen King describes is the ringing sensation of the cymbals.
It's the bump, the beating. Dum dum dum.
That's not as scary as an ominous single ring.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
sounds louder than it should. They've ruined a key component of the story.
Yeah,
'Kay.
I mean,
keep going. Get into
so
it. Yeah,
this
I'm so glad I didn't see this because I would have been like, "What the fuck is this?"
I'm glad I
would have
didn't know
texted you
that.
and been like, "I'm mad."
I'm angry. It's got Theo James, who
'Kay.
people would know from the Gentleman Show on Netflix.
He's great. I love him.
Divergent series. Yeah, I like Theo James. It's got Elijah Wood is in this, and briefly Adam Scott, who I've been watching Severance. He shows up in the beginning, and I'll get into his character. And then
We like
also,
Adam Scott too. He's great.
Osgood Perkins plays a character in this. I was like, oh my God, that's the director. And like,
Okay.
I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah, he Tarantino'd it.
Yeah, he Tarantino'd it. And look,
He Michael Bay'd it.
No. No. Let's be nice to Osgood Perkins, okay?
Well, Michael Bay shows up in his own movies.
Yes, but you know, this was actually a pretty fun movie.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know?
All right. Go.
So, Longlegs last year, to me, I think some people have been like, oh, I think it's overhyped. I don't, and like, fair. I still really liked it. I rewatched it before I saw this, and I'm like, this is still a really good movie. Like, I really liked Longlegs.
Cool.
But Longlegs is in my realm of, I really like those kinds of movies. So that's probably why. And this one is very Final Destination coded. And personally, I'm not a big fan of the Final Destination movies. They don't scratch my itch. But I will say that unlike the Final Destination movies, I thought that this monkey, you turn the key and it beats, and the person who turns the key is immune, but you have no control over who's going to suffer the fate. When the fate is obviously a very booby-trapped, very, like, cartoon-trap setup for these deaths. Like, there's some that I'm just like,
it's
that's
like a
really
Rube Goldberg contraption.
Yeah, I mean, and, like, some of these deaths, I'm not going to lie, like, I'm
They're
not
funny?
a big fan. Yes, like, truly, they're kind of funny. And now, personally, I'm not a big fan of gory movies. Like, I don't like the torture porn, Saw, Terrifier type movies.
Okay.
So when there's too much gore in a movie, sometimes I'm like, not for me. this is one of the rare cases where I was like, okay, this is like it kind of felt like Kingsman in the sense where it's like this over the top elevated world, but also grounded at the same time. You know what I mean?
Okay. How many beats on the monkey drum does this film get from you before we get into any spoilers or anything?
I would say this is a solid 3 out of 5. Like,
3 out of 5 beats?
On my rating system of good, garbage, and fun, I would put this under fun. Because again,
so
it's kind of like
watch once, it was good.
Yeah, it's kind of like Companion, where it's
Yeah.
like this isn't a movie I would normally go out of my way to watch.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say it's bad because it's not my favorite, genre. But I won't say it's good because I'm really reserving that good title for movies that I walk away being like, whoa.
Yeah.
So
like Captain America.
Oh yeah, that movie was great.
Brave New
Favorite
Bird.
movie of the year.
Yeah.
I think about it all the time. I've seen it 6 times since.
Great.
Used all my AMC passes on it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm wearing a shirt right now.
Were you shocked every time Joaquin didn't die?
Dude, every time they're like the buyer, I was like, who is the buyer?
Who's the buyer?
Who's the buyer?
All right, so let's get into the monkey. Give me what this plot was about, because I was a big Stephen King fan as a kid. Okay, people should have picked up on the signs that I was a little weirdo when I was reading Stephen King at like 9, 9 years old, and I was like, I want to read and watch Pet Cemetery. That is what I want. And like my parents were like,
yeah, that's fair.
Okay, Kev, yeah, that's fine. And I was like, I really enjoy this. Let's also rent The Mangler. And they were like, what? And I was like, The Mangler. It's about a machine that gets a taste for human blood. And they're like, okay, Kev.
That's a Stephen King Overdrive.
I also saw oh my God, Overdrive. Okay.
His directorial debut and only.
I am such a movie nerd that even as a kid, I was talking with a friend of mine at I have a distinct memory of being 10, maybe 11 years old, talking with a friend of mine about Overdrive because it was going to be on TNT that weekend or something. And it was they can't even show the scene where the guy gets run over in the field because they used a giant bag of blood and it actually exploded and it freaked people out in the theater and made them throw up. We were nerding out on Stephen King special effects as kids. Yeah. All right. Keep going.
Okay. So basically this movie is about 2 twins, Hal and Bill, both played by adult Theo James.
Yes.
Adult Hal and Bill are played by Theo James. We cut back to young them, not played by Theo James.
Yeah, we do flashbacks. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't age him down, 30 years to make him a kid.
Yeah.
I was hoping they would, but they didn't. And Adam Scott's character. Oh, by the way, full spoilers.
Oh my God, spoilers!
There's not the plot. If you are interested, the plot is a monkey kills people and brothers are attached to it. There's anything beyond that is a spoiler. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh well, yeah, kind of. I mean, ultimately, it's a horror movie. They showed some of the spoilers in the preview.
Yeah, there's no who done it. There's no grand reveal. It's a cursed monkey, and they got to figure out what to do.
Yeah, at the end of the movie, it's not it was this guy the whole time.
He was actually behind it.
It was actually Kevin McAllister from Home Alone setting up elaborate murder booby traps because he thought you were breaking into his house. I don't know.
And anyways.
The monkey Home Alones, people. Got it.
You've got, and I think, and I honestly, I wish I would have taken down better notes. Hal is the good brother and Bill is the evil brother, essentially.
Yes. Hold on. I have to get this thought out.
Okay.
Had the wet/sticky bandits died at the hands of any of those booby traps that would have actually killed them, like a bowling ball to the face.
Oh, they would have all died immediately.
Hold on. Or getting electrocuted while standing in a puddle of water in a basement. Mm-hmm. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Had either of them actually died, very different movie, Home Alone.
Yeah.
Turns into a trial.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a kid. They probably would have... Yeah, he would have been...
You're going to juvie, Kevin McAllister.
It's the origin of Hannibal Lecter. Kevin McAllister
I was just
changes his name.
protecting my house. They were like, you murdered a man. So here we...
Yeah.
Well,
the paint can. The paint can alone would fucking tomato your head against the wall.
Also, another another really good version of Home Alone. Home Alone in a stand your ground state. Very short film. Short film.
Anyways, okay. Moving on. So Hal and Bill are twins. Yeah. Adam Scott actually plays their dad, and he plays a captain. He's like a pilot, and basically in the beginning of the movie, they find the monkey.
Okay.
The dad is trying to figure out the secrets. The dad mysteriously disappears. Obviously, he probably died.
Whoa.
The brothers find the monkey, and out of spite, Hal turns the key. This is all in the beginning. He doesn't like his brother. His brother's bullying him. He turns the monkey key, and their mom dies.
Yep.
So then they go to stay with their aunt. We flash forward to the future. Hal has a kid named Petey, named after his dad. And Bill no longer is in his life. Hal is a deadbeat. He is divorced. His ex-wife is now married to Elijah Wood. Whoop. And he only gets to see his son like once a year. And he doesn't tell anybody about his brother because, obviously he feels guilty for trying to kill his brother and getting his mom killed.
Story checks out.
So from there on out, what essentially happens, when they were kids, they took the monkey and they threw it down a well, which is in the trailer. And the monkey resurfaces. It's in the like closet. And it just becomes like a series of Hal and Bill end up like meeting back up, and they essentially like keep turning the key, trying to figure out this mystery. Like their aunt gets killed, who is played by Twyla from Schitt's Creek. Her husband is Osgood Perkins. Uncle Chip and Aunt Ida were their names. And there's this other kid. There's Petey, and then there's this other kid. And basically where the like real plot of this movie is, secretly Bill is using this kid to get the monkey because Bill wants to kill Hal. And so it's kind of brother v brother. And while they're like doing their stuff, you get all the kills in the background. Like one kill that stood out to me that like, it's gruesome, but like it made me chuckle because of just like the absurdity. And it's teased in the trailer, but this lady at the hotel that Hal is staying at, he sees the electrical cables in the pool, and she jumps in. And I thought she was just gonna get electrocuted. She jumps in and fucking explodes.
Whoa!
Like, yeah.
That's very classic. See, that's Maximum Overdrive, baby. It's like, classic Stephen King.
When they're
I mean, I guess you'd explode. Do her bones explode?
Like, it's just like it's funny. Like, I don't know how to explain it.
All right,
like,
cool, yeah.
And like when they were kids,
I guess.
One of the first deaths is they turned the monkey when they were kids, and their babysitter accidentally gets decapitated in like the most like Rube Goldberg way. So but one of the
because the monkey comes to life, and it's the spirit of dead Kevin McAllister, and he home alone people. Yeah.
So essentially, like how this movie ends, for anybody that's curious, is Bill ends up dying by the monkey, and in the end, Hal reconnects with his son, and they kind of realize, oh, as long as we have the monkey and we don't turn the key, nothing bad can happen. And I'm like, yeah, obviously.
Well, the story itself, the horror is in, and Stephen King has always done a good job of this. He takes a very human element and then explores the inner depths of it. And the monkey is about guilt, personal held guilt, and then also remorse and where you place that remorse. And where you place that remorse sometimes can have negative effects on yours and other people's lives. So like the real horror is always like it becomes kind of tropey in some of the Stephen King books if you've read all of them, but it's like the real horror was in us the whole time. Like you know, like
and that's definitely really evident at the end of this movie because like again, the whole thing is set up where Hal wants to kill his brother because his brother's a bully, and he accidentally kills his mom, so they don't like each other. And then you think that Bill is okay with it and they reconcile, but secretly Bill was trying to get Hal killed because he doesn't like his brother, but also Bill was just like a bad kid and like a bad person.
Yeah, but you kind of know this when Bill shows up. Like you're like, oh yeah, no, this dude's here for revenge.
He's crazy. So like there is that like message of like, was it really Hal's fault that his mom died?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
He turned
like,
the key. Yes.
It was. And like, should he blame Bill? Like, yeah, like a little bit, but also like you still turn the key. Like,
also yes,
you're both kind of bad.
yeah. I mean, imagine if during like Full Metal Alchemist they just spent the entire series blaming each other for killing their mom instead of feeling bad about it together. You know, like that's what this is.
Yeah. And
Full Metal Alchemist is reverse the monkey.
and like that's actually really true. I love Full Metal Alchemist.
I know, me too.
Yeah, like I think that a lot of the there's one point where they kind of go pawn the monkey, and like just a random spear gun goes through the pawn shop owner's neck.
Oh yeah, well, that's part of the thing is like the deaths are playful because the monkey is a plaything.
Yeah.
Once again, though, I would be so mad the entire movie because it's a drum instead of cymbals. Because like. It's a key element to the book. Just, you guys, you're a fucking production studio. You have more money than God. Figure it out together.
Well,
like, tell Disney they can have some streaming rights. Fuck. Like, come on, and also, Disney, give it a fucking break. Everyone's still showing up to your parks even though you're the worst. Like, people are still subscribing to your channel even though you're the worst. Let them have symbols in their monkey movie. You fucks. Sorry.
Yeah, and, like, I will say... Though I agree that the symbols might have been better, one thing that I really
100%.
Well, what I will say is Osgood Perkins, and I really like this in Long Legs, he's really good at sound design. So I will say that the beating of the drum was pretty good. But again, that's coming from somebody who doesn't know it's supposed to be cymbals.
As long as at no point it sounds like Jumanji, I'm fine.
Oh, it's basically just Jumanji. I'm just kidding.
Then
No, it's not. It's not.
If it was Jumanji, I'd be mad. I'd be like, this is just horror Jumanji now.
No, it's
like
it worked. I think that's where again I would say Osgood Perkins in my book is 2 for 2.
Yeah.
I really would like to see him do more. But yeah, like the monkey, there's not much really to say about it. It's like an hour and a half. It's a pretty brisk. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward and brisk 2 brothers, monkey, people die, Final Destination style kind of movie. It's fun. It's fun.
What's the best horror remake you've seen in the past couple years? I'm genuinely curious because this is kind of a remake. You know, it's like
essentially.
Take on a what's the best horror remake you've seen in years? Because I feel like I know what mine is.
What's yours?
I've got one that's definitely number 1, but it's very close for number 2. Hellraiser, the new Hellraiser was phenomenal.
Oh yeah, you really liked that one.
Absolutely phenomenal, especially the end. Like it was so well done and true to form, and it's a very gory film, but it's very different from the Hellraiser movies while also having all the same messages. And then just behind that, Evil Dead. Like the way that they did Evil Dead Rise, even just as a sequel in the franchise, as part of a reboot, I think is so much better and ties itself so well into horror. Like, I really loved watching that movie.
Evil Dead's a hard one for me because it's very like
apartment gore.
Yeah, and
Evil Dead Rise is apartment gore. Let's be real.
It really is, and that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just
they do a good job of making the undertone of the human element of the film very undertone. Like they're not hitting you over the head with this is the overprotective mom and this is you're like, oh, I get it. This is just their relationship and this is how they play out when the person is possessed, you know? And they do the same thing even in like the Evil Dead reboot from like 2013.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
That was great too. You know? Both of those, I think both of those are great. And not only that, they're spaced out and they're still great.
I guess for me, because if we're talking strictly just like remakes.
Yeah, remakes. Because this is a remake. This falls into that category.
Yeah, I mean, the first one that comes to mind is from 2011, Let Me In, Matt Reeves. Vampire flick.
Yep. That's Let the Right One In redone, right?
Yeah, but I think if I had to pick one of recent, it would either be New Nosferatu, just because. Or if I was going to go back a little bit further, I really like It Chapter 1. I really, really loved It Chapter 1. So I think it'd be one of those two for me.
You know what? Honestly, Nosferatu wins.
I'd say Nosferatu is the first one that comes to mind, but it's so recent.
Wins. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of it.
Or, you know what?
No, you win.
Even another one?
Right. No, you
another
win.
One?
No, I'm playing victory music in the background for you right now. Why do I do this to myself? Now I gotta go find victory. You know, after we record this, I don't have stock victory music saved yet. So now I have to make an audio file using bass samples that I find on the internet and combining them in GarageBand and sound EQing them and balancing the sound design so that we have an effect. I just gave myself work. All right, sorry.
Yeah. That's your fault. I was gonna say the other one, Invisible Man. Lee Winnell's Invisible Man would be another one up there for me.
I didn't see that yet. Yeah,
it's a good one. I liked it.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that's the monkey. The other movie I saw isn't as new. It's straight to streaming. I think it came out like a week ago or 2 weeks ago at this point. The Gorge with Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy.
I love Miles Teller. I'm on the fence about Anya Taylor-Joy at this point.
Okay, so I love both of them. Okay. I've been a Miles Teller fan. I really liked him in That Awkward Moment. I really liked him in War Dogs. I really liked him in Top Gun 2.
War Dogs is what sold me on Miles Teller.
Yes,
that's
I'm
what
glad
sold
somebody
me
else
on
knows
him.
that movie.
It's good.
Whiplash obviously is another good Miles Teller movie. He's in a boxing movie.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, Whiplash is like the intro to Miles.
What's
Teller.
the boxing movie he's in? What's that one called? It's based on a true story. Doesn't matter.
Was he in Southpaw with whatever his name was?
He was in this
Jake
boxing
movie.
No,
Jake Gyllenheimer Schmidt.
It doesn't matter. The other one that I think everybody knows Miles Teller for is the really bad Fantastic Four movie.
I don't know anyone from that movie. I just know that Michael B. Jordan was in it.
And anyways,
that's all I got.
Anya Taylor-Joy, I've been a fan of since I really liked her in The Menu. I really liked her in Furiosa. I think.
Okay, I liked her in Furiosa and The Menu. Keep going.
She's in The Vivitch too.
Yeah, but like she's a kid and she's just playing scared the whole movie, so I'm not gonna she did a good job.
That's why I think she did a good job is because she's a kid and she plays the part really well. But I see your point, and that's fair.
I'm not gonna look back on that and like judge her now, her acting.
That's fair.
Yeah, more contemporary stuff is. I typically stick with the more contemporary stuff, and it doesn't matter if someone was really good back in the day. Like if contemporary they haven't been that great, I'm like, I'm on the fence about it.
Look at every straight to streaming Stallone, Travolta, and Schwarzenegger movie.
Well, even some of the stuff that's come out for like a lot of these aging actors. Like I love what's his name? He plays Ian Malcolm.
Jeff Goldblum.
I love Jeff Goldblum, but I did not love him in The Wizard of Oz, and I'm just like, okay, well, maybe I won't like him in the next one. Who knows?
That's fair.
Yeah.
So The Gorge is from director Scott Derrickson, who is famous for first Doctor Strange movie, and probably one of his more famous horror movies, The Black Phone with Ethan Hawke. If you have not seen The Black Phone, I really liked it. I love clever horror movies like that. I also think that the first Doctor Strange is a really good Marvel movie, and I wish they would have let Scott Derrickson lean more into the horror element that he's known for. But then, you get what you get.
The first Doctor Strange is okay. I think it's interesting in the beginning. There's a big lull in it. Even though it's like visually good, right?
That's what I mean. It's visually really cool.
And then the last encounter of the entire movie, I was like, okay, yeah, this was okay film.
It's Groundhog Day at the end. I love that.
Well, it's not just Groundhog Day. It's much better than that. They do a montage, and they do it fast. The first time you're like, wait, what's going on? And then like as you're like, oh no, wait, oh cool. I actually, this. I love saying Dormammu, I've come to bargain to people because I can make it you can make it a running joke. Find your favorite person that you like buying things from, like a coffee, like a barista or a clerk at a store or somebody that you enjoy seeing that works in retail, and say Dormammu, I've come to bargain every time you see them. It's hilarious. It's great. They might not find it hilarious, but you have fun.
But you find it funny. That's all that matters. And so I like Scott Derrickson as an actor. Not as an actor. I'm sorry, as a director.
He's in The Gorge. He is The Gorge.
He plays the entire Gorge.
The Gorge. It's not Scott Derrickson's like he is the one who made it. Scott Derrickson is The Gorge. All right, sorry. Keep going.
I wanted to quickly see what else he's directed. I believe he's done segments on VHS, the VHS series. Yep. He did the first Sinister, and he did a movie that I really liked called Deliver Us from Evil. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's got Eric Bana in it, Olivia Munn, Joel McHale's in it. It's a pretty good New York cop possession kind of movie.
I think I've seen clips of that. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not bad. So I like Scott Derrickson is basically what I'm getting at. I like Miles Teller. I like Anya Taylor-Joy. I like Sigourney Weaver in this.
Oh wow, Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, she rocks up in this. So basically, what this movie is about. Miles Teller's playing Levi, and Anya Taylor-Joy is playing a Lithuanian called Drasa, and Levi is a former Marine Corps scout sniper. He's retired, and for the last 4 years, he's been doing like paramilitary.
See, they already played into one of your biases. They got a Marine Corps guy in it. All right.
But he's basically been working for like contractors and stuff, and he has no attachments, nobody that loves him, and nobody that will miss him. And Anya Taylor-Joy, her dad is, I think, like dying, and so she does a mission in the beginning, and then we meet up with her, and she's like, I'm going away for a year, and his dad's like, hey, on Valentine's Day, light a candle for me because I'm going to kill myself because I'm tired of living this life because he's dying. And he's like, if I don't die before that, I'm gonna do it myself on February 14th because I'm going out on my own terms. And so they both get recruited to basically fly sedated and parachute in to the Gorge, and we follow Levi as he gets a briefing from the current person at the Gorge, who basically tells him, hey, this is your watchtower, here's all your food, here's a garden, here's your armory, here's the bathhouse. You know, you gotta every day make sure that these cloaking satellites that keep the Gorge hidden from, you know, the world on Google Maps and satellites, make sure that they're operational, make sure you reload all the automated turrets, and, you know, just protect the Gorge, make sure nothing comes out. And he's like, well, what's down there? And what's down in the Gorge, Kevin, are these things called the Hollow Men from the T.S. Eliot poem.
Okay.
And essentially...
Wait, are they from the T.S. Eliot poem?
Yeah, from This Is the Way the World Ends, not with a bang, but with...
a whisper. Not with a whisper, but with a bang.
Yeah, that's
Or it's not with a bang, but with a whisper. Yeah.
So...
you mean Justin Timberlake's in this as injured sniper from a war, from World War III?
So,
all right, keep going.
He basically, this is like a meet cute mystery action movie. Okay. So they have these really powerful binoculars, and they basically start like they see each other, they hold up signs, they start communicating, and one of the rules is
across the gorge.
And you're not supposed to have contact with the person across the gorge, because there's the gorge in the middle, there's two towers, and they start talking to each other through like things. And then at one point you get like a quick action scene where the Hollow Men start to scale the walls, and you see all the machine guns go off, and they're using snipers and rifles, and they're shooting all these Hollow Men, and they basically just look like did you ever see Jungle Cruise?
No.
Did you see my video on Jungle Cruise?
No.
So they look like they're basically like tree people, like they're human faces, but they're like made out of like bark and wood and stuff.
So
and I'll explain
made out of nature.
I'll explain what they actually
things.
are, because I will admit they actually reveal like what the gorge is, how it started, and what's going on, and I didn't expect them to. And I'll admit it's pretty silly. But it's kind of fun. But anyways, you get like a quick action scene to see what the gorge is all about. And then Levi's like, you know what? I'm gonna make a zip line. I'm gonna go visit this girl. And so
how does he make a zip line?
Using an RPG, but taking out the explosives and then finding cable and like rigging it to I mean, you know, movie magic. You know, because every scout sniper knows how to make a zip line out of an old RPG, obviously. I know how to do that. I mean, it's like day one in boot camp, Kevin.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So he goes over to visit her, and like their chemistry is really good. Like Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy just do a really good job of playing these two people who like are awkward because they haven't talked to anybody in months in person, and like they like each other. And on his way back,
do they like each other, or are they just the first person they've seen in a long time?
Both. Well, they can. There's actually a really. I will admit, and this kind of threw me off because I wasn't expecting it. Scott Derrickson wrote a really good scene where they're kind of talking about their professions, because again, they're both like professional killers, basically.
Cool.
And he writes this scene, and I thought it was really cool, where they bond over their like longest kills, and like through that it opens the door of like Levi explains like, I used to love doing this because my dad and my grandpa were in the Marines, and I was raised hunting, and I was raised to be like to get the perfect shot, and now I can't compartmentalize because my graveyard's too full of all these demons and secrets and things I've done. And like and he's like, I've never been able to talk about this with anybody because who would understand? And she's like, I understand. And like I'm paraphrasing all of this. It's done way better than it's done better than what I'm explaining. But on his way back, the zip line, there's mines all over the gorge, like on the walls
for the Hollow Men.
Yeah, for the Hollow Men. And one of them goes off, breaks the zip line. He falls into the gorge. He was smart. He wore a parachute just in case. So,
so he goes in, and then she go after him.
She dives in after him. And this is where
that's very fitting because her name in Lithuanian means courage. Good job.
Whoa. Wow. What does Levi mean in Lithuanian?
Levi is not a Lithuanian name. Levi's a biblical name. It means comes from the Hebrew/Aramaic, which means joined. Why do I know this shit?
Joined courage.
Well, and then there's also there's a metaphor maybe built into the naming mechanisms, which a lot of directors and writers are doing now. But Levi also is the beginning portion of the word Leviathan, right? So there's that too.
So
keep going.
Second half of this movie, because this is like 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The second hour is them down in the gorge.
Oh, cool.
So
it turns into a survival horror thriller.
It reminds me of Peter Jackson's King Kong when they're in that pit with all the bugs.
Hell yeah, love that.
So I'm trying not to spoil too much, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter. But they fight their way through the gorge. There's a really gross scene. I have extreme arachnophobia. Here's a fun story for you.
There's big spiders in the gorge?
Yeah, well, I'm getting there. They're gross spiders.
Are there big spiders in the gorge?
No. Well, big in the sense of like they're like the size of small corgis.
Do they have 8 legs?
Yes.
Perfect. Big spiders. Yes. Got it. Confirmed.
So, a quick story of why I have extreme arachnophobia. Okay. When I was 6, I lived on a farm in Indiana, and we used to get tornadoes a lot. So under our house was a storm shelter, but it was a crawl space, so you couldn't stand up. We went down there one time. I'll never forget. There was like 6 tornadoes in the area, and we went down there, and when we came back up, my back was on fire, and when my parents lifted my shirt up, there were 4 spiders that had bit me 8 different times on my back.
Oof.
And so ever since then, I don't like spiders.
Were they all poisonous?
No, thank God. But they left welts, and at 6, I was fucking. So when the spiders showed up in this, they stumble upon this town. And it's said in like early on that this whole thing started during World War II, and you don't really know why, but you know that
this rift in the earth opened up in World War II.
Well, not exactly. The gorge was already there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So 2,000 people on horseback went down to check it out, and they never came back.
Because they founded a town.
Sort of. So
what a twist.
To jump ahead a little bit, they go into like this church, and that's where the spiders are. And I'm not kidding. Like that scene made me uncomfortable. I don't like spiders. It's gross.
Okay.
They run into this military bunker, and this is where you learn what happened in the gorge. And I thought this was kind of clever. Okay. During World War II, they set up this base in this gorge because it was remote and it was isolated, and nobody would know that they were down there. And so they set up this town full of scientists. And and they even say this, while Oppenheimer was working on his deterrent to win the war, they were working on their deterrent from a biological standpoint. So it was the Soviets.
The Soviets.
It was the Soviets, the Americans, and the British. It was the Allies during World War II. It was a joint effort. But unfortunately, an earthquake happened in the gorge, and that made all of their like tests and all the stuff that they were working on for biological warfare leak. And what that did is it combined the DNA of everything around. So insects, plants, human, they all started to morph together. Whoa. So that's why everything looks kind of like tree-like, but also like little bug-like, but also still a little human-like.
Okay, so all the tree bug humans are trees, bugs, and humans.
Exactly. So a lot of the people that they're fighting are, and there's a moment.
People. They're the scientists.
They're the 2,000 people that went down there on horseback. Because there's even like a weird wooden horse creature that they see.
Hell
and so
All right, this sounds cool.
It's pretty fun. Like I was like, oh, that's clever. Like they were making these rockets that were going to be biological weapons to win the war. An earthquake made them leak, and now all the fog in the gorge is the contaminant. And they learned through their research that like we have like 2 hours to get out of here before we're going to become fucked up tree people.
Weird bug tree animal people.
So and then
there's a clock now.
And then they kind of like
Do they
race
make it
around.
out?
They get out.
Okay.
They get out in a really fun sequence where they use an old World War II Jeep. They use the winch to go up the zip line that fell. And as they're like scaling the wall in this Jeep, they're like, Miles Teller has a fucking sword and he's like sword fighting these tree people.
Oh,
while
cool.
Anya Taylor-Joy has a wrench and is just bashing their heads in.
I love that. That's great. No, this sounds cool. I'm actually this sequence sold me on watching this. Yes.
So,
all right, cool. I'm in.
Why I texted you and I was like, I think you would find it stupid because like there are some plot holes. Like there's this moment early on where Miles Teller sees this guy called Bradford, his pictures in the tower, and he's the first guardian of the tower. And they say that the towers were like constructed in 1946 to keep the gorge contained. Yeah, but then later on he's revealed to be one of the tree people, and it's like, well, why would he have been down at the research facility if he was the first protector in the tower?
Yeah, what happened to him?
Doesn't really make a lot of sense.
He fell.
Yeah, he fell. He's fine.
He fell.
But I do like, because while they're down in the gorge, and I guess this is a spoiler, but like it really doesn't matter. They find out that the people that hired them are a third-party military contractor who are using the gorge to research what happened in order to make super soldiers. Right?
So Black Rock.
It's that trip.
Like, yeah.
They're called Black Lake, I believe. Of course, right? Of course.
Why?
But
why must naming mechanisms be bad? Let us be smart. Treat the viewers like we're smart. I think I'm out on this again. I might not watch this now.
Hang on. Because it's pretty fun. I think you should put it on in the background, and when they dive into the gorge, pay attention for like 45 minutes.
I'll put it on in the background if I like am doing something tedious and just want something on. Sure.
The way it wraps up is while they're down in the gorge, they accessed a computer, and that triggered the people that hired him. They know that they went down in the gorge, which you're not supposed to do. Like, you're not supposed to go to the gorge, you're not supposed to talk to the counterpart. You're supposed to sit there and shoot stuff that comes out of the gorge for a year. Right?
That's all you do. Yeah.
And the cool thing about this is, and I forgot to mention this, the guy that Levi relieves, he gets picked up by a helicopter, and as he's like climbing up the rope, they're like, confirm your identity, and he's like, I'm this guy, and they're like, cool, boom, and they shoot him, they kill him, and they drop him off in the middle of the woods because like it's a secret, they don't want anyone to know. So
they shoot Levi?
No, they shoot the guy that like he replaced.
Oh,
like
okay.
Basically, because he stayed there for a year. And everybody that ends up doing their year tour, they kill him afterwards so they don't reveal any secrets.
Oh, cool.
So the ending comes, and Sigourney Weaver calls Levi on the radio, and she's like, hey, did you go down to the gorge? And he's like, nah, I didn't go down to the gorge. And she's like, did you talk to your counterpart? And he's like, nah, I didn't do that either. And she's like, okay, kill her. And he's like, okay, I will. And so then they come up with a plan to destroy the gorge. They're like, you know what? Fuck this place. Fuck these guys. So Drassa and Levi orchestrate this plan. Sigourney Weaver shows up on a helicopter to confront them, and basically they nuke the gorge. They run away, they nuke the gorge, Sigourney Weaver dies in the nuke, and that's how the movie ends. They blow up the gorge.
They nuke the gorge.
So while they're down there, they find this old like atom bomb, and they figure out how to trigger it. And so they're like, we're gonna blow up the gorge.
But the guys in the gorge weren't working on an atom bomb.
Well,
they were working on chemical warfare.
So there's the guys in the gorge built the atom bomb as a safety net in case things went wrong, but things went wrong and they didn't get a chance to trigger it. So now they're triggering it. It's a convenient plot point, I should say.
Yeah, but your Deus Ex Machina is an atom bomb. Okay, got it. All right. Yeah.
And
all
like,
right. Fine.
I think that the journey and like the action.
Who wrote this?
I believe it was Scott Derrickson.
Okay.
Let's find out. The Gorge.
Anyway,
was
all right,
written
yeah,
by...
that's kind of like okay.
Never mind. It was written by this guy called.
This guy called.
Oh, okay.
What?
What? God. So the writer is a guy named Zach Dean, and he wrote the Tomorrow War, the Chris Pratt Future War, and he wrote part of Fast and Furious 10.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
This is
Does
great.
that answer your questions now?
Yes.
Look,
yeah, I have a feeling
Gorge...
you're right. I'm probably not going to like it, but there might be a couple points that I enjoy watching.
I think you'll like the journey. I don't think you'll like the overall plot.
Do a magnum opus video on it.
Maybe.
No, do it. Do a magnum opus video on it. It'll be fine. I'll watch that. That'll be great.
It'll be down the road. I've got lots on the slate for that.
All right, well, anyway, how many spider, tree, insect, people, human things do you give this out of a million?
Out of a million?
That's how many there were down there that they had to blow up with an atom bomb.
Like 600,050.
6 out of 10.
It's 6.5 out of 10.
6.5 out of 10. Wow, that's actually higher than I thought you would give it.
I mean,
all right.
And that's because
of Anya Taylor-Joy.
Anya Taylor-Joy is good. Miles Teller is good, and I think again,
I like Miles Teller.
And maybe it's the action brain in me, but like. There was something about watching a giant 50 cal machine gun turret come out of the ground and Miles Teller just get on it and start shooting a bunch of like zombie hollow men as they're climbing a wall and explosions are going off and minigun turrets are shooting tracer rounds. I'm like, woo! My little tiny brain was having fun. And when they're down in the gorge, this I think is probably what made me really like it from a military perspective. Yeah, the way that they like work as a pair to like cover each other and like the way they're like checking corners and like switching places and like opening like it's all very tactical oriented, and I really just enjoyed the little flavor it added.
Cool.
So yeah, all
right, sweet. 6.5 out of 10 on the Gorge. That's great, Odie. I'm so glad that you're watching these movies so I don't have to.
That's what I'm here for.
Yep, I have not been watching a lot. I've been reading a lot. I've finished 2 chapters of 2 different mangas in the past couple weeks, and I've been rereading Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil, which is great. One of the best philosophical books ever. Highly recommend that people read that. I don't know how many people are going to read it. Most people, you know what I've learned? A lot of people that I talk to about reading, I'm physically reading. And then they're like, yes, I read this book. And then I notice that they have not read it because we're in the conversation and they're like, oh, well, I listened to, like, the concession comes in the conversation. I'm not saying people are wrong for listening to books. What I'm saying is if you didn't read it and you're talking to someone who likely read the physical thing and has probably absorbed more of it, lead with that. Because we will get into the conversation, and I will get into things that I remember that you don't because you were doing the dishes or driving or something. And then you have to concede to me that you did not actually read it, but instead listened to a person read it to you while doing other things. So, like, your attention, if you're reading a book, your attention, your attention is on the words on the. You can't do anything else. You can't drive and read a book. You can't watch something and read. Far. Well, you wouldn't. You literally, physically, psychologically cannot, as a human being, do either one of those things 100% at the same time. You can't.
Exactly.
You can do one of them 100% at any given time. We are a very limited little animal, right? So, like, if I've been rereading these books and getting them back into my brain because I need this like cognitive I need this academic refresher for myself. Yeah. I've been craving it, and I didn't realize how much I needed it until I started getting back into these. And then I go to have conversations with people, and they're like, oh yeah, I read that. And then I get, you know how I am. I'm passionate. I get into it. And then all of a sudden we're in the middle of the conversation, and people are like, oh well, I listened to it on Audible. Like, and it's always a funny moment in the conversation. Like I said, I'm not judging anybody for it. It's just a funny moment in the conversation because it happens every single time someone actually didn't read it but listened to it is like somewhere in the middle, and you can hear it in the inflection in their voice. They're like, oh, I just listened to it on Audible. Like, you know, like they're like, well, yeah, I didn't commit to this as much as I originally led on.
Yeah, I think it depends on the book for audio. Like, I've switched over to reading physical, and I've already noticed that I've retained more than when I did audiobooks.
Yeah, well, because you're sounding out the words in your head, so you're not just hearing a voice. You're also reading it on page.
But I think it's a
tactile portion to it.
Because for me, I like to read.
You always retain more if you physically.
No, I meant. Oh, sorry, that's not what I meant. Depends on. I meant it depends on for me if I'm gonna do audio or read the physical. And the way I do it is if it's if it's classified as like a self-help book, like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, one of my favorite books that I like to reread and re-listen to at least once a year.
Yeah.
I like those kind of books more in audio form because typically to me that's like listening to a podcast, like a more informative podcast.
Well,
now,
because so many podcasts they lean into influencers who are marketing self-help.
Now,
like
that's not the kind of podcast I like. But
I know, but what I'm saying is like that's
it reminds me of that. But like when I'm reading and I'm almost done with the third Dune book, not Dune book, Silo book.
Are you listening to it or reading it?
No, but that's the thing is like if it's an actual story, like Silo or these murder mystery books that I read every once in a while, I have to read that physically because it, like you said, it keeps me distracted. I can picture the theater of the mind, and as somebody who up until literally this year, Kevin, has I can name in the last since I graduated like high school, because you had to you were forced to read books in high school, willingly on my own in that 18 to 20 year period since I've been out of high school, I have willingly read one book physically.
What?
I never liked reading. There was nothing that it never interested me. It never grabbed my attention. And then literally the start of this year, I was going to Taco Bell to get a Nacho Bel Grande, and there was a Barnes and Noble right there, and I was like,
I'm gonna get a book.
I'm gonna get a book, and I bought the 3 Silo books. I bought 4 of these murder mystery books. I've read 2 of the murder mystery books and 2 of the Silo books this year already, which means I've read 4 times the amount of books in like a month and a half that I did in the last 20 years.
I have filled up 2 bookshelves in my life.
Love that.
Of physical books that I have read. And some of them are copies that I've bought of the book that I've given out to other people because it was so good that I was like, have this book, I'm going to go buy another copy. No, I'm definitely, I think reading is for everybody, and this is I'll lose people on this, but reading is for everybody. The level of your reading does create a level of discomfort, self-consciousness. It's like going to the gym. And this is the only way that I can explain it, because I'm at the gym yesterday doing something that I think is very easy, right? And I'm sweating, right? I'm doing a leg complex. I'm doing some squats, I'm doing some lunges, I'm doing some RDLs, right? I'm doing things, and then I ran into a friend and they were like, your workout looks very hard. And I was like, I'm constantly reminded by like the way that I'm interacting with the world, that like it's about the consistency and it's about getting better at it. Like we have a president who very obviously speaks at an 8th grade reading level, and people identify with that. And that tells me a lot about people. But like reading is like going to the gym. The first time you go, it's going to suck. It's going to feel awkward. It might even like make you fatigued more than you would have liked or been comfortable with. But as you continue to do it, you will get better and you will get faster. You will even, dare I say, be a stronger reader.
I feel that already. Just reading the 2 Silo books. Dude, those things are big for me. They're like almost 600 pages. And that was a lot for someone who doesn't read.
I know that I'm not all over social media, like, purporting this philosophy of mine that I have in life, but something that I repeat to myself almost on a weekly basis is harden the body, sharpen the mind. I literally remind myself every week, harden the body, sharpen the mind.
I sharpen my body and harden my mind.
Oh, yeah? You sharpen your body?
Yeah. Yeah, knife hands.
Yeah, but like, but it's important, man. Because,
totally.
Because you end up like it gives you a better lens by which you digest things, and especially even reading classics. Like I had a conversation this morning. This gets into my jam, so we'll transition to my.
Let's
jam.
go to jams.
I had a conversation. Well, yeah, I had a conversation this morning with a guy named Seth. I run into him a lot at a coffee shop. He's always sitting at the coffee bar. Really cool, interesting, intelligent guy. And we get into a conversation about how he went to Paul Smith's college, and we're talking about like, you know, like forums that exist now, and how back like in the 80s and 90s, you didn't have forums before like the internet was much more widespread. So people would have these conversations that we're seeing happen in real time in like comment sections and forums and Reddit and stuff. Like those conversations took place over the course of weeks or months in magazines, and they would respond to each other via magazine, like, and there would be these back and forths about like anything, like any magazine. And then we got into like, you know, just the conversation about like, you know, just like the way that people had to have back and forths and how well versed you had to be, but you also had time and like the serialization of books and like a lot of our favorite books now, like books that people consider classic books, actually weren't even books. They were serialized publications. Like Sherlock Holmes, almost every Sherlock Holmes story was a serialized publication where like imagine like, because they didn't have TV. So these were their episodes. Did a lot of those, like where once a week. Yeah. And like it's so interesting to like think about that, because that's not long ago in human history that was the case, you know. Yeah. But we were talking about that, and we got into, you know, and he's a very well read person, and I like to think I'm well read, but I'll let other people tell me if I am or not. But ultimately, we got into talking about just like fucking Charles Dickens, and like he was able to make a literary reference, and I was able to grab it and extrapolate. You know, we made a joke about the funding for different things. He's been, so this is one of my jams. He's rebinding books, and this is something that I did not know that people do. And so my jam this week is having learned, well, one of my jams is having learned that there are people out there who still passionately will rebind books in a more fanciful way. And I've known that he was getting into this for a couple weeks, and I walked in and I saw this beautifully bound crushed black leather book with a sword with a red ruby on it, and then a little like bat thing hanging out of it. And I go, is that did you bind that? And he goes, yes. And I was like, is it Dracula? And he goes, it is. And I was like, oh my God, great job. Right. But I wouldn't know that if I hadn't read Dracula or like understood the cultural significance. Yeah. And like maybe had a read on that person. And it's all because I've read enough that I did that. Right. And I was like, well, is that the first one that you did? And he goes, no, the first one I bound was Great Expectations. I go, oh, you were being poetic with yourself. Got it. Like you were letting yourself know you have great expectations for this new hobby. And he was like, exactly. And then I was like, how did it go? And he goes, well, and I was like, oh yeah, your funding wasn't so great. Because Great Expectations, the big reveal in that is, you know, he was funded. Do you know that story?
Vaguely.
Yeah. So getting into the serialized publication, like Great Expectations was publicized as a serialized story where in the beginning, the main character meets a thief and takes care of him and shows him kindness. And then he goes off and starts like being the literal plaything of, you know, a debutante, and then goes off into school, falls in love with the girl. There's a big rivalry between him and his friends. He has a mysterious benefactor. Way later, it's revealed that it was the thief from the beginning, not the old lady who he worked for, right? And so like the big reveal is it's this guy who looked all shabby. It turned out he had a ton of money and he was giving it to you secretly for years, right? And like we had this little short conversation about like imagine being the people, because reading levels weren't as high as they are now. Like we're very spoiled, but like imagine being the people reading that story serialized week in, week out, month in, month out, back in the day from Charles Dickens, and getting to the end and maybe not even remembering that character existed. Yeah. You know? Like, because it's
Unless
not
you
like
saved them all.
Yeah, you can't just sit down in one reading and get through whatever, like 200, 300 pages of Great Expectations. You're getting it as it comes to you in these other publications that are coming out at the time. It's absolutely like, I love that. It's so fascinating to me that we have that in our history, like this history of like serialized stories that we now can just sit down and read in, like, if you're a good enough reader, like a weekend, you know? I think that's amazing.
I mean, it'd be like if a movie came out in like 15-minute parts online and you had to wait a week for the next 15-minute part.
Well, and now we have binge watching, so people are just watching a whole series in one weekend.
But it used to be
Well, I've noticed I appreciate the things that are coming out one episode a week. I actually enjoy them more.
Oh, me too, dude.
And
like,
maybe
I
I'm
look
just
forward
an
to
old
it.
man. Maybe that's what it is.
No, because I think there is something to, like, even Reacher dropped 3 episodes at once, and I'm like, that's fine, and like that's fine. But I agree, because there is something to watching an episode and then not feeling like you immediately need to watch the next one. There is something to spacing out the consumption that allows me, like, and maybe I'm just thinking because Severance right now, there's so many theories, and there's something to having to wait a whole 7 days before you see the next episode to go, okay, well, is my theory about the last episode right? Oh, now this is here. Okay, now let me think about this. There is something to being able to digest it. I think we've talked about binge watching a bit, and there is something to, if you sit down and watch 8 episodes back to back to back to back to back, how much are you really absorbing?
Well, and I would equate it to listening to a book versus reading it, right? Because, like, you can't always read a book in one sitting, right? So we're full circle on this. Like, I do think that it's important to still have serialization. I also, so to round it all out, serialization is important. If you can and find the time, physically read, please. It's super huge and important for you. And, like,
support your local bookstore.
I realized recently, like, how little I was reading when I started getting through whole mangas and, like, whole books again and going, oh shit, I've been missing this component from my life, and it's very fulfilling. It might not be for everybody, whatever, who cares? But, like, you should. But then, okay, so then my other jam this week, I talked to you about this a little bit before we got on to the podcast. I did not give enough time to Tesseract's War of Being last year. Tesseract is not just the Infinity Stone / weird object from the Avengers and Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Tesseract, and also Loki seasons 1 and 2. The Tesseract, or rather just Tesseract, is a band a gent band from like early to mid 2000s, right? The very beginning of the 2000s, like 2007, 2009, 2010. They kind of found their roots. They are probably one of my favorite gent bands, but then their album Altered State is one of my favorite albums of all time, like top 5 albums. Altered State's on it. Their singers have only ever been amazing, and Dan Tompkins is, without a doubt, one of the best, not just singers, not just metal singers of our time.
Yeah.
Period. Fucking
You've
period.
mentioned him before.
I don't care. Say whatever you want about, like, whatever huge popular artist is selling out stadiums and whatever. That's... Quantity is never going to outweigh quality as far as I'm concerned, and he has this vocal tear in the song Legion by Tesseract on this album, War Being. I recommend anyone and everyone who is interested in voice, is interested in singing, finds joy in listening to someone who is a multi-talented singer. Listen to just that song. It's only like 4 minutes. It's 4 minutes of your time, and somewhere around, like, I want to say like a minute 52 minutes, he gets into like the bridge / meat of the song, because they don't write songs that are like verse chorus, solo chorus, repeat.
Not your standard.
Yeah, they don't write in standard. They also don't write in standard timings or tunings. Like, they're very different. So it might be a lot for someone to listen to it, but the song is beautiful. The lyrics are insane, and then he goes from, like, and you can hear him, he rises, there's like this intonation, he rises into the piece, and then he comes in with this heavy fucking scream, but it goes from high-pitched fry scream into an open vocal, like, I almost want to say like part growl, but there's still a note behind it. And then he goes into super high falsetto and then comes back down and is grounding it. And then it all rounds out with this beautiful note scream at the same time. And then they go right into the final part of the song. And apart from all of that, his singing is just beautiful anyway. So, like, I cannot recommend Tesseract's album, The War of Being, enough. If you're so inclined, watch their YouTube videos. They're visually stunning. They're amazing. Like, they just blow my mind. Like, I don't know why I slept on this last year, because if I had given it more time, it probably would have been like album of the year.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm listening to it now and I'm like, oh no, this should have been album of the year for me. Damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are my jams. What are yours?
Well, I mean, I talked about the Gorge, I talked about the Monkey. I'm trying to think of what else I knew I consumed this week. Oh, that's right.
D&D.
D&D today.
I know.
But I think I'm late to the game on this one. I'm going through Apple TV shows, and
We're
finding
both just late to the game this week.
Well, I started Hijack because I heard they were getting a season 2 with Idris Elba.
With Idris Elba, yeah.
And the reason
it's not bad.
As somebody who used to travel, I used to fly 2 times a week, 4 weeks out of the month.
Yeah.
And I still really love airplane travel. I'm one of the weirdos that I love flying. I hope
you don't right now.
I am not flying right now for a lot of reasons.
No one should right now, baby.
No,
you're really rolling the dice now.
Yeah. Now, and that's the thing is, like, one of my friends was talking to me about it, and they were like, "How do you feel about what's going on with like the FAA and stuff?" And because they know, like, I'm their traveler friend, right? Like,
yeah. Season 2 of Hijack is they get into a mid-air collision.
But like when I told him, I was like, I'm nervous to fly.
Like,
that's, to him, he was like, oh, that's a red flag, because like I fly all the time, and like, if I'm nervous to fly, like
I don't want to fly right
scary.
Now. Sort that shit out, baby.
But Hijack was, as somebody who travels a lot by plane, I'm enjoying it. I'm 2 episodes in. I love Idris Elba. I was really just craving Idris Elba more than anything.
Yeah. This came out in like 2023.
Yeah, 2023.
Yeah.
It's been on my list for a while. I just was like, had other things that were better.
I did watch Hijack.
Oh yeah.
I think back in 2023, I think Chloe was watching it. And so I sat down one day. I was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Idris Elba. All right, cool. Yeah." It's very much from 2023 through now, and I think Reacher kind of falls in this too, and it's fine. Like, it doesn't ruin the show for most people, but for me, when it's the guy who's like the penultimate threat to the bad guys and he can do anything and figure anything out, like there's a scene in Hijack pretty early on where he's like, I know how to save this man's life, and he's like instructing them on how to save a dude's life while he's bleeding, and like and they're like, why'd you save that guy? And like he's like, it's like it's very much like I like to call it I call it like dad fantasy like it's like the dad
totally.
Fantasy, like
100%.
Like dads are like, oh fuck yeah, he's so fucking skilled.
I could do that.
Yeah, oh fuck yeah, I would do
that.
The
end of the first episode is Idris Elba's wife and son, and they're talking to this detective, and they're like, they bring him in when towards the end, and they're like, what is he good at? And the son just looks at him and goes, the negotiation. And then it cuts back to him being like, I'm gonna help you guys keep this plane under control. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, no, it's bad. Yeah, that part's bad. The show, I'm sure, is fine. If this is a genre, right? Like the genre of like dad action thriller.
Jack Ryan, Reacher, Hijack. Yeah,
exactly. They all kind of fall
Rogue
into the
Heroes,
same vein.
The
it's
dawn
like,
of SAS.
I'm good. Yeah, and Reacher. Actually, here's the funny thing. I actually watched the first 2 episodes of Reacher last night.
Season 1.
Season 1, baby. I watched the first Reacher. 2 episodes last night. The show is fine. Some of the lines, I'm rolling my eyes so fucking hard. Like, there's the scene. Okay, the villain of the show is like a mysterious mustachioed guy, right? Like he's like, it's very snidely. He's like, I'm going to hire some henchmen to go beat up this man who I couldn't kill even when he was in prison. So then these kids are going to show up. He's just paying people to go and fight this man.
You're not far enough in to know that there's more than one villain.
It's whatever. I don't care. But like the tactic remains the same. They're like and then like he sits down and he has like the Liam Neeson moment at the table with like the detective chief in the first episode. He's like, "You're looking for 3 men," and like he hasn't even seen the crime scene. He's like, "You're looking for 3 men," and that's because I understand personality types. And it's like, all right, buddy.
But that's the whole point, right? Is that he's supposed to be that.
Here's the thing: he's a superhero.
Right, and I think
just admit that you like superheroes.
Like, just admit it. I think the second season, in my opinion, is better because it's not so much the mystery. It's just him and his old, like, part of his old army team just beating the fuck out of people for 6 episodes, and that to me is way more fun.
You know what I'm gonna call this genre from here on out? Batman, but not Batman.
That's Batman.
That's what this genre is. It's Batman, but not Batman.
It's 100%.
Like they're like the best detectives. They're like, even like the Nathan Fillion ones. It's like he's the best detective.
The Rookie.
Yeah, even though he kind of has like some goofy moments, right?
I was a construction worker, and now I'm a great cop.
From The Rookie the other day, by the way, and that threw me the fuck off. I was like, wait, hold on, what? Like I looked him up. I'm like, I do not look like that man. But yeah, like it's Batman, but not Batman. That's all it is. Yeah, because they're just not the rich billionaire with a bat suit. But look, he's nigh invincible.
That's all like he needs is the bat suit and the money, and he's Batman.
He just has that moment where, like, the kids show up. He's like, I'm going to break 3 kids' wrists. And they're like, well, there's 4 of us. And he's like, yeah, one of you has to drive to the hospital. I'm like, all right, Roadhouse.
Okay. But that's the thing is, like, I like the Roadhouse movie because it's that. I like Reacher.
I know.
Because, like, the opening, the first episode of season 2, there's this lady at the ATM in this like middle of nowhere, and he's like, you're getting carjacked, and he just walks over to the car, puts his shirt around his fist, and punches the dude through the fucking window. Like, what more do you want, Kevin?
Like I said, I'm fine with it, but I'm just kind of like rolling my eyes at it.
No, I don't blame you at all.
This is I would say this isn't A+ entertainment. This is B, right? This is intentionally B.
Definitely.
It's campy. It's what it is. It's testosterone camp. You know how there's like camp, right? Mm-hmm. This is like Macho-Dude Camp. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I'm here for it, though.
Yeah, Macho-Dude Camp, Batman, but not Batman.
Batman, but not Batman. I love it.
All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of the UnPop podcast. We are your hosts, as always. Happy to be serving you giant portions of microplastic-laden cheese as planes fall out of the sky.
Giant wheel.
And our government is gutted from the inside by the world's richest man. Thank you for enjoying and enduring this absurd existence with us. If you would like to contact us with any questions, comments, concerns for our mental health, or would like us to podcast live at your funeral, feel free to email mysecretpoweris@gmail.com. Please do not forget to check out Magnum Nopus, Odie's channel, where they continue cooking up content because they are beholden to this career at this point.
I love it. Check out my Doomsday video. It's fun.
Yes. Art by Frank Ace. Music by moi.
Moi. Who's moi?
By moi.
Who's that? I've never heard of that artist.
Well, it's moi. It's moi, baby. Moi. Thank you so much to everybody. We hope that you have a lovely week. Can't wait to talk to you again next week.
Bye. Bye.